Then a left turn and a left downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared to land on 9 all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that after 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening,
Hello.
everybody. thank you very much to whoever that was cynically in the comments before the show started saying we're looking forward to a professionally produced show. Well, I suggest you tune in somewhere else because it may not be. What is that?
Who's got the hammering going on?
Oh. I think that's my wife killing something up in the kitchen.
Okay. Do you think she can? There we go.
Only because I muted Dave.
Yeah.
If it doesn't die soon, Dave, I'm going to mute you because this is. Otherwise, I'll just get the mickey taken at me every week for a lack of professionally produced. So anyway, right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And tonight we've got a whole packed show. I can see in the green room we've got Pete Stratten, CEO of the BGA, waited to talk to us. Simon Keeling talking about this weekend's weather, which looks quite interesting. Well, it's always quite interesting, but this weekend's even more interesting than that. First of all, big thanks to Sky Demon. Thank you for supporting the live stream. And here is your Sky Demon's top tip this week.
Hi, I'm Tim from Skydemon. Welcome to today's top tip. When you're flying over water, you may have noticed a blue ring around your aircraft. As it says here, this is how far you can glide without an engine based on the best glide indicated airspeed and glide ratio that you've set up for your aircraft. Skydemon takes wind and terrain into account when working out how far you could glide. You can turn on the glide range feature when you're over land too. In navigation options, scroll to the bottom and change Show Glide Range to Always. Now that we're over land, Skydemon is showing us how far we could glide before we're at 1,000 feet above ground level. The idea is that if an airfield is inside the ring, getting to its overhead with 1,000 feet to spare gives you a good chance of landing there. You can change it to a different height, again in the planning options. For more information on any of our features, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
That's a lovely feature, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Now, I've got mine set to 0 feet, so I know exactly where I can glide, but actually, it's probably better to have it set to something like 500 feet, isn't it?
I would say so, Johnny.
Yeah. I'm going to change that now.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get to 1,000 feet and go, oh, it should be okay. I'm on the ground. I can step out here. Jolly good. Okay, well, thank you very much, Sky Demon. I think before I forget, which I was almost on the verge of doing, we should bring in Simon Keeling and have a bit of weather. So, Simon, how are you doing?
Hey, evening all. How could you possibly forget about me?
Well, it's just because I didn't put it prominently enough in the running order. I wouldn't forget about you, but occasionally you get carried away. You know, you're like so nervous and want to make it all so smooth that it all just goes wrong.
All these excuses in. It's the rain that's got to your head, isn't it? And that's what it is.
Yeah. So I don't know who was changing you around there, but I'm going to add your map in, your weather charts, and see what that does at this point. Hang on a second. Here you go.
Let's see what happens.
Look at that!
Wow,
smooth and slick, or what?
Almost like we'd know what we're doing. That strange stuff that fell from the sky this morning across central and eastern England, that's called rain. And we've not seen that for a wee while, have we? Nice steady rainfall for some, heavier for others. Don't think we're going to be seeing that much of it this weekend, thank goodness. So actually for flying this weekend, it's looking pretty good. This is how tomorrow shapes up. I've got us right the way through to Monday here, because obviously for most of us it's a bank holiday weekend. But what we're looking at is this very weak front that's just moving eastwards during the course of tonight. It looks more serious than it actually is. I think what it's going to do is just bring an area of cloud across parts of Wales, across parts of northwest England, the Midlands, southwest England tomorrow morning. May have some showers associated with it early on. And you see here on the cloud ceiling forecast these green and yellow colours here indicating cloud bases at about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Well, this is quite early on. This whole feature will move eastwards through the course of the morning into the early afternoon, and probably the showers do tend to fade, but I still wouldn't rule out one or two heavy ones around. So check out Form 215 quite carefully in the morning, and the TAFs. They'll give you more information on how likely these showers are going to be. Across Scotland, some good weather through most of Scotland, bases 3,000 to 4,000 feet and above, and actually across much of eastern England as well tomorrow is looking pretty good. Light winds all the way as well. Now for Saturday, high pressure on Saturday, but see this little trough that's lying down central parts of the country. That may just trigger some showers on Saturday afternoon. Not expecting anything widespread, but again, could be some isolated downpours around. Should be able to see them quite clearly. Most bases are going to be at about 4,000 feet, with the tops probably up at about 10,000 feet on Saturday. Just increased cloud. Anybody flying in Western Ireland during Saturday afternoon. Some drizzle here, reduced visibility, but generally Saturday looking pretty good. Now, something to note as well going into the latter part of Saturday. See the ice bars here across the south of the country. Just watch how much closer they are together as we get in towards Sunday. You see them there closer, particularly across southern coast of England and through the Channel. That's an easterly wind that's going to be picking up during the course of Sunday. Could be about 20, perhaps even 25 knots across southern coasts. Elsewhere, it's a fair day for Sunday again. Broken cloud, generally light winds. Easterlies about 10 to 12 knots. Although we could find one or two showers going off over the Pennines. That just brings the bases down to about 2,000 to 3,000 feet. But elsewhere, bases 4,000 to 5,000 feet, and the top's probably at about 10,000 feet. Now, that easterly is still with us for Bank Holiday Monday, particularly across southern areas. Again, just notice the isobars close together. So that's an easterly wind, probably about 18 knots, could be gusting 25 knots across the south on Monday. So just be prepared for that. And obviously, an easterly in the UK tends to be quite scrappy. So you could find some slight turbulence associated with it. Warm front just passes across northern parts of Scotland. That may bring a little bit of low cloud and drizzle there. But you know what? Considering it's a bank holiday weekend, that ain't half bad, is it? So, yeah, enjoy. As I say, just watch out for that easterly across more southern areas. And also, something just to note is that when we're on the southern edge of high pressure, as we are at the moment, that easterly wind can often be a good 2 or 3 knots stronger than it appears in the forecast. It's just one of the anomalies of models and of forecasting. And I never quite understand why forecasters don't add that in, because we know that it happens. So, southern edge of high pressure, easterly wind in the UK, generally add 2 or 3 knots on top of your wind speeds. Tips like that for you at Aviation Weather School. Still got a couple of places left on the course, which starts a week on Saturday. So this is a course presented entirely live online by me over those 2 consecutive Saturdays, so the 3rd and 10th of September between 09:30 and 12:30 hours. It'll be absolutely super to see you there. Go to weatherschool.co.uk to book your place now. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Cheers, Simon.
Are you going flying yourself?
Hopefully, it's going to be the end of next week or perhaps the week after. Got a bit of a problem at the moment with my foot, which hopefully should be better next week, and then I'll be back into flying again. I can't wait. I just see these guys fly over here and think, I wish I was up there with you. So fingers crossed, everything will be sorted. Give it another week or so, and I'll be there.
I think the longer you don't fly, the better, because it's bound to be, the weather's bound to be pants when you go flying again, isn't it?
I'll bear that in mind then. Thanks, Ian.
Take one for the team, Simon.
I will do.
Great
I'll
weather.
be there for
Great.
all of it. See ya.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye. There you go. Right. In that case, let's move seamlessly straight into the news. And Dave, I think you're up first.
Yes, but it seems to have gone quiet upstairs, so I'll quickly move on. So the first story is about, we have a new issue of Flyer out, a new compilation. The cover story is simply everything we know about the Van's RV-15. This is Van's new high-wing aircraft, which was shown for the first time at Oshkosh. Been dribs of drab information coming out before, but when we were at Oshkosh, we thought we were able to get quite a lot of facts out of Van's, and plus we also managed to get a series of photos from behind the scenes of the development of the aircraft, as well as a video with Ed talking to Ryan Johnson, the president of Van's, and the guy who basically sketched out the aircraft. So it's a really fascinating piece. And if you've got any thoughts at all about going for an RV-15, it'll probably convince you to do just that. So what else is in the magazine? There are pages and pages of coverage from Oshkosh. I mean, the 3 of us were there, and we churned out so much material, and it's all in the issue. In fact, the whole issue runs to 169 pages altogether, which is probably a record. Yes, I know. First solo is a very interesting chat with Sam Worthington-Lees. Sam's been on the live stream before. He's a commercial pilot, but he's got a particular interest in warbirds, and we delve into that a bit. The flying adventure is Edwin Decker ferry flying a Ryzen 912IS Micronite from the Ryzen factory in Italy to the US West Coast. and he met the new owner of the Horizon, a chap called Mark. He met him in Greenland, and the pictures from Greenland just make you think Greenland has to be somewhere on your bucket list to go flying. Just everything you see from Greenland just looks fantastic. What else is an issue? Top Gear. Ian tests the Safe Sky app, which is it's a very interesting way of doing electronic conspicuity.
Lots and lots of discussion about it on the forum. As you know, electronic conspicuity is a little bit like religious wars. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on about that. So by the time we get a common standard and everyone accepts it, there'll be peace in the Middle East.
Right.
Maybe.
Interesting that you touched on electronic conspicuity there. Did anyone see the news this week that in Australia you can get up to $5,000 towards your EC install?
That's half a power refit.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Not this 200 million total grant. $5,000.
I know. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, we interrupted you, Dave.
No, that's everything I was going to say about it. You can Flyer Club members can go and download the issue whenever they like. The idea is that these are the articles that pretty much everything we've published over the last 4 weeks is there, and you can read it offline. That's the idea behind it.
And if you're not a Flyer Club member, you should be. It would be great. It's only going to cost you, roughly speaking, the equivalent of £1 a week. For that, you get everything that we produce, plus everything that we ever will produce. Well, you remember that is. If you'd like to see more of certain stuff or less of certain stuff, let us know in the comments and let us know what it is. Right, next story. There's a guy called Mac who has apparently done something, Ed.
There is a guy called Mac, and as Mikey said, well, we all know where Mac is. What will replace Where's Mac? Well, for tonight, at least, we can say Mac made it, and that's the news that. That's Manston, not Mac.
He was not flying a 707.
There we go. Mac Solo Rutherford has successfully completed his round-the-world flight in a Shark microlight. The British-Belgian 17-year-old Mac has set 2 world records, and they've already been acknowledged by the Guinness Book of Records. And that's one, the youngest person to fly around the world solo, the previous holder of that, for not very long, poor old Travis Ludlow. The second record, youngest person to fly around the world solo in an ultralight aircraft. And the previous record holder was his sister, Zara. So Mac landed in Sofia, Bulgaria, home of its main sponsor, ICDS Soft, on Wednesday afternoon to be welcomed by his flying mad family, including his sister. And that's so you got his mum, sister, dad on the end. So and Mac looks like he might need a haircut.
I think it's time for a haircut for Mac, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Good. Well done, Mac. That was some achievement, and as quite a few people have pointed out, his mum must.
Okay, Christian Hospital. The thing that people do to achieve their 20-22 minutes. I think he's surpassed that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Right. And in a little thing, you may have seen the sneak peek of what the story is going to be next because I put up the wrong picture. Johnny.
Yeah, good news. There might actually be an airfield reopening. So this is Manston in Kent, which could apparently be opening as soon as 2025 under plans from a developer called River Oak Strategic Partnerships. This whole thing's taken more than 5 years to get to this point, but they've received a development consent order from the DFT, and they're planning to invest up to £500 million in the airport, which was closed in 2014. The idea is to provide freight operators with an alternative to other London airports and potentially ease road congestion around the channel. And they're saying they could create up to 23,000 jobs in the area in the wider local economy. And they've already announced that they're going to be a testing destination for a hydrogen fuel cell system developed by High Point, which are based in Sandwich. It's a potentially good news story just to get an airfield that probably most of us would thought were just going to be turned into a housing estate to live for a bit longer.
Do we think it's 2025 because they need it as a lorry park until then?
Probably.
No, it's absolutely ready now, but we're just parking all these lorries on it. Sorry.
I think while the runway may be serviceable, I think they've still got to put a bunch of other infrastructure in place, and they've probably got to go run through some planning permissions and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Good. Let's see. Hopefully that'll all work out, and it'll be an airfield that's open, and it won't be another Farnborough where they go, yes, sir, you can land here. It's £600 minimum charge, or whatever it is at Farnborough. Right. Next story is me and you. You may or may not recall that a while ago there was the first flight of an electric Beaver owned by Harbour Air. Well, this time they're celebrating their first point-to-point flight. It took off from their base, which is near Vancouver Airport, and landed somewhere called Patricia Bay, which is a grand total of 45 miles away. It took them 24 minutes, and apparently they landed with plenty of reserve electricity. What can you say about that? Well,
I'm not familiar with. I normally I've landed with 100 miles worth of range left, or maybe 50 gallons. I'm not familiar with the term plenty.
I think it was 36 minutes they said they landed with, but it's just like fuel. That 36 minutes is variable depending on all sorts of things.
I was going to say, is that 36 minutes in cruise, or does that translate to 6 minutes of go around?
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Well, maybe those figures aren't completely accurate, but yes, it will be a variable number, and it'll be a variable number based on lots of things. And I suppose every great destination takes a lot of small steps, and that is a small step, but it's a small step in the right direction. What can I say? The test pilots all said it all went flawlessly, but test pilots always say that in press releases. Probably not always in their reports, but always do in press releases. Anyway, well done, Harbour Air. Right, what's coming up? Oh, we got a video to play next. Dave, I'll let you talk about this before I run the video.
So it's another electric story. This is the Rise Recon, which is one of these eVTOLs, an electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It's basically a manned drone. Unusually, this one is aimed at the agricultural sector, farmers, park rangers, and something they call vineyardists. People who run vineyards. That's their word. I didn't invent it. It's their word.
Here's about 30 seconds of their first flight coming up for you.
Spooling up.
Well, unusually we can talk over this one, so I reckon that's the sell it to the agricultural people bit.
You just fly down the rows of grapes.
Yeah.
Well, in talking of which, I think is it in Florida, in some places when they have an unexpected frost, they do fly helicopters to move the air to try and. I mean, that's got to be you've got to have an expensive crop when you land a place. Just top it up with avgas. What are you growing? Gold or something? Jeez.
Yeah. I was watching a video on YouTube the other day of an the forerunner to the Wessex with the big radial engine in it, just flying around drying cherries.
Well, of course. So cherries. So obviously you protect oranges from frost. Cherries are really prone to getting wet because water. If it rains and the water goes in the down the stem and in the little recess around the top of the stems, and the cherries rot. So you use a helicopter to dry the cherries out and stop cherry rot.
Ed, I didn't realise you were a cherryist.
I know this fact because we interviewed someone in I Get Paid for this in Flyer a couple of years ago, and they were a cherry drying helicopter pilot.
I'm trying to think of her name.
Yes, she's quite well known, and she's on YouTube.
Yeah,
and I'm going to resist any obvious jokes. Do you like cherries, Ed?
I don't like cherries.
You don't like cherries?
No.
Okay, I think we should
back
move on
to the Rise Recon. They're aiming to go into production with it as early as 2023 and sell it for $150,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're based in Ohio, aren't they? And I guess I don't know. When I was watching the video earlier, because there's a slightly longer version of that video, you should go and have a look at it on their website. There's sort of like there's a couple of drone shots where they're over some trees and things moving forwards quite slowly. I mean, if you bought one of those, how soon is it? Well, it's America, so if you bought 5 of those to cover your entire farm, how soon is it before the farm kids go, okay, let's go race, and then just racing? I mean, clearly that's really what it's for, isn't it? No one's going to look at their cherries slowly. Everyone wants fast cherries.
What you never see in these eVTOL videos is someone jumping in their eVTOL and shooting up to like 2,000 feet.
No. And in that one, you don't see people waving their hands outside either to people.
No.
Like, oh.
Apparently, this one.
Look, it's still.
Apparently, this one will fly as high as 700 feet. But I have to say, that sounds pretty scary, 700 feet.
The guy flying it looked like he was going to get scared at 17 feet.
Well,
17 feet is a long way to fall, isn't it?
I did notice he was already handily in a bag, because they seem to use a bag for the fuselage.
Just zip it up a bit further.
I can actually see. I can see in America where they have like farms as far as the eye can see in some places. I can see that being I can see a whole bunch of people going for that because they're going to be a lot easier to fly than I'll teach myself to fly an R-22 or something, hasn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and 150K, if that's what they actually end up selling for, in terms of farm kit, it's probably relatively affordable. He says, never having bought a piece of farm kit.
Dave White says they use helicopters for peaches as well. So there we go. It's all your farming and flying needs here. As Richard Kennedy says, this flyer or farmer live stream?
Farmer live stream, I'm afraid. Right, anyway, let's move back onto flying completely and something a lot closer to home. Ed, you're going to tell us all about the thing that is absolutely not the rally, but is the
not the LAA rally, the LAA Grassroots fly-in. It's just around the corner next week. The LAA. And interestingly, in the press release, they said the LAA's annual event. Well, it's an LAA annual event with a difference because it's not the rally. It's what they're calling the Grassroots Fly-In. Takes place Friday, Saturday and Sunday, the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of September. It's obviously taking place at Popham, a new venue. It'll have indoor and outdoor exhibitors. All the spots are sold out, we're told. There's an LAA Speakers Corner, which is familiar to previous year's event. And there's going to be the CAA, Skydemon, Garmin, Gasco, and Pilot Aware, as well as presentations on new types joining the LAA fleet, continental touring with Dave White, and Drawing the Queen's Head by Amy Whitewick, who you'll remember was on the live stream a few weeks ago. If you're flying in, you need to book a slot, and there's a slot system being run by Popham Airfield. I'll stick a link in the comments to the briefing notes and the slots and to help you find the slot system. You can also drive in, and they've arranged it so that we're unlike the BMA unlike the microlight rally where you park on one side of the airfield and have to cross. They're aiming to park everyone all on the other side of the airfield, and they've got an area called the Apron, which will supposedly hold up to 300 aircraft. And that's being handled by the familiar faces of the North Weald Marshallers team, supported by the Popham team. And there's airside access. There's the old favourites like Gasco's pre-flight masterclass, learn how to cover, and there'll be an LAA flea market. And camping too. So the camping will be slightly less kind of high level than the camping you might be familiar with that took place at Sywell. But you can camp if you want.
Bivouacking or something.
Yeah. Obviously, Sywell there was a bit more infrastructure for that kind of stuff. So, but at Popham, I'm sure it's a nice spot. I'm sure it'll all go swimmingly. He says confidently.
This does sound very much like
if climbing keeps away from flying and the weather's good, then it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to that. We'll be there we'll be wandering around, reporting on the show with a video camera sticking. So if you're there, you might find it stuck in your face.
Darren Lewington, Aerotiques will be there. That's one exhibitor giveaway. There we go.
Yeah. What's Aerotiques? Has anyone ever heard of them or Darren Lewington?
Never heard of Aerotiques. Yeah.
So somehow, the next story is a little bit embarrassing, really, because three of us spent a whole week trudging around Oshkosh. Not trudging, that makes it sound unpleasant, but exploring Oshkosh and loving every minute of it. And it turns out we missed a brand new aeroplane. Well, a brand new model of an old aeroplane, I guess, more accurate. So embarrassingly, we have to tell you about that now. Dave, what is it?
Well, it's the Beechcraft Bonanza Speedster, and it's sort of basically a paint job, to be honest. It's a red paint scheme with some checkered bits. It's based on a Bonanza race by someone called Pat McEwen in the 1960s and 70s who had a red V-tail Bonanza. It's not a bad paint scheme, but you have to say Textron blew the whole blinking launch. First of all, by not having a painted aircraft there at Oshkosh. Secondly, by not telling anybody. And all that exists of it are some graphics on a website.
And a video they launched after the event, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, some bloke shouting from the stand. Some bloke shouting from the stand about it. Apparently, you can also have the paint scheme on a new Baron should you want it as well, even though that was never raced.
Last year they came up with their Olivan tribute paint scheme, didn't they?
Yeah.
I saw one of those, which might have been the factory one. I'm not sure they sold many of those. So who knows whether
they didn't sell any Bonanzas at all last year.
Yes. Sorry?
They didn't sell any Bonanzas at all last year of any kind, Olivan or anyone else.
Oh, there we go. So that's not a good sign, is it? So
it was a new point. Text. I know Cessna, part of Textron, based in Wichita. Textron, based in Wichita. I guess they're based all over, aren't they? Really. So, I don't know. I'm just wondering. Does anyone know if there are any breweries in Wichita?
I don't know.
No,
there must be.
Probably.
Maybe
I know where this
maybe
is
you could organise some drink training in them or something.
Based on previous experience, I'm not sure they could manage it.
No, I was trying to say subtly that Textron struggled to organise anything this year was just a complete and utter disaster. And we've so far experienced, I think, 3 fairly large disasters in our Textron organisational relationship over the years. So, confidence is not high.
Well, we all turned up at the Textron stand on one day for a press conference they'd announced. Only to
find cancelled it.
And nobody knew anything about it. Hey!
Anyway.
I guess this was the this, wasn't it? This is an aeroplane they knew about that they didn't want to tell us about.
I know. Yeah, but we found out and we've released it to the world.
So we've distributed the news.
There was a comment that we have had actually a comment from Textron in the not too distant past, which is someone saying, "We're so busy, we just can't. We don't want any more orders because we don't want to disappoint customers." Go figure, eh?
Yep.
Imagine that. What can I say? I don't think we'll ever get another penny from Textron, but
never mind. Tell us about the competition.
Oh, yes. So there was competition 2 weeks ago. I went on a flight with Nigel Charles in his Robin DR401, and he wanted to sort of test and show its economy. So we flew Scaffold Pike, and then we went and landed somewhere that I can't remember, but I'll get back to that. Then we flew over Ben Nevis, and we landed somewhere else. Then on the way back, we flew over Snowdon. And then competition was a little video that we ran. You can, if you go back and have a look at it, if you're that interested in it. It was a couple of weeks ago. And there were 8 places to name. So we asked everybody to name them, and then which you could see the registration at the end. So you could go and look it up on FlightAware and follow and get, oh, that's where it went. Ching, 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 on Flight Radar 24 or whatever. However, the decider was how much fuel was burnt. So just to let you know where those places were. Overhead Prestatyn on North Wales coast. Yep, that was not far from Wallasey. Scaffold Pike, Kirkbride, that's where we landed. Ben Nevis, Elsa Craig, which is interesting, which is probably not how you pronounce it, but it's how I'm pronouncing it tonight. Castle Kennedy, Isle of Man, Snowdon and back. It was 7 hours flying in a day, so I was quite tired at the end of that, even though I wasn't actually flying. And the total fuel burn for those 7 hours was amazingly economic, 144 litres. So the average fuel burn was 20.59 litres an hour, which is pretty good for a 4-seat touring aeroplane with that CD, what do they call it these days?
155?
The CD 155, yeah. So well done. And the winner, I guess that's what people are really interested in, the winner is the well-known and famous Mark Saunders, believe it or not. So there you go. So well done, Mark. And your prize is give us a shout. Nigel will take you flying in DR401, and I'll buy you lunch. What could possibly go wrong? So get in touch. So, thank you very much for reminding me. I nearly forgot that again, which would have been doubly embarrassing. Johnny,
yeah. So
before we get to the interview.
Yeah, this is all about changes at Charlton Park. So there've been a few changes of late, which we only really found out about in the last 24 hours. So the Earl of Suffolk sadly passed away earlier this month, which means the estate passed on to who I think is his son, the Viscount Andover. But looking at the charts, looking at Pooley's chart anyway, they've lost the north-south runway, so it's only the 900-metre east-west that's there, and the landing fee now for fixed-wing aeroplanes is £125.
Wow.
And £150 for helicopters, and £50 overnight parking.
I think that should solve any problems with visitors.
Yeah, so either that or Signature have opened an FBO up that we don't know about. But I can't see that happening.
No.
So yeah, but it's been a really popular spot over the past couple of years with, I guess, the whole lockdown, Facebooky, Instagram thing caught on, and people wanted to go there and see it and get pictures taken there. So
yeah,
there are actually, I don't know if you remember, maybe a year, 18 months ago now, there was a couple of flats for sale in the house. You could buy 2 or 3 bedroom flats. They didn't come with guaranteed access to the airfield or with access to the hangars, but there was kind of like hinted in the details that you may be able to negotiate that separately. Not that I was going to go and buy one or anything, but
I think were there 3 or 4 aeroplanes based there.
Yeah,
I think there were a couple of airplanes based there. And I'm guessing that. Well, yeah, it's sad that all the work done to produce an absolutely stunning site should be respected, and he did an absolutely great job. He also sold the Chipmunk to Alan Clapmeyer, one of the co-founders of Cirrus, many years ago.
Linda Griffith suggested maybe it's become London Malmesbury International.
Yeah, quite possibly. Farnborough on grass or something. But anyway, yeah. So there you go. That's the Charlton Park thing. I think it is time. Unless there's any more Charlton Park.
No, I think we're all Charlton Park's out.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that Carol de Sola said, was it Maria Langer who dried tomatoes? Yeah. I think she meant dried cherries, but I can see the tomato thing. And she's right. And that reminded me, and I was able to go. So if you want to go and find out all about the life of cherry helicopter flying drying Maria Langer, then there's a link in the comments.
Wow, that is slick, isn't it? That is slick. Well done. I'm going to bring in Pete Stratten, and I'm going to shuffle him around on the screen and make him big. So
there we go. Good evening, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Good to join you guys. I've been listening in with great interest.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining. So you are the CEO of British Gliding. Or the British Gliding Association, rather. And it's been quite a busy time recently. So just talk us through what's been happening. And this photo will kind of sum up one of the events that's been going on.
Yeah. So Johnny, that's the airfield at Husbands Bosworth, which is the home of the Gliding Centre, where they're currently hosting the 11th Women's World Gliding Championships. So that's been running now since the beginning of last week, and it ends actually tomorrow. And I was very interested to look at Simon's weather charts to see what the chances are of having a race tomorrow. It looks like they'll get something out of it. So there's that, plus our great success in the Junior World Gliding Championships, which was held in the Czech Republic at the beginning of August, where it's the way we view it, we got a gold medal and a silver medal. Very exciting to have a young British world champion.
Yeah. So how big are the teams? How many people are we talking?
Yeah, so the Women's World Gliding Championships is 42 competitors from 12 countries, which is smaller than a standard World Championships, but that's the way it is. Several teams dropped out. A couple of teams, Russia and Belarus, weren't allowed to turn up. So it's it's still quite a sizable chunk of gliders to launch every day.
Yeah. And have there been any kind of world records broken? Because you always hear about glider flights that have broken endurance records and that kind of thing. Has any of that happened for either the women's championships or the juniors?
No, no records have been broken in gliders. I think they managed to break a couple of the tug pilots at a party one night. But I think it's there have been some great races. It's been a real mix of weather, and in the second week, it's been sort of standard British August weather, whereas the previous week and during the practice period, it was almost like Central European conditions.
What's gliding been like over the past couple of years, and with lockdowns and all of the restrictions and that kind of thing? How's it been?
Yeah, so obviously we were quite worried about it. Lockdown severely impacted us, like everybody else who wants to fly. And over the 2 years essentially of lockdown problems and getting back to what is now normal, we've seen an overall reduction of full members of gliding clubs of about 4%. So we've got to get back to 2019 levels. We've got a bit more work to do. But the activity has bounced back significantly, and this summer has been absolutely fantastic weather, really good. Plenty of blocking highs, and I think that there's another high coming this weekend, isn't there, for a few days? It produces great weather for us. Bit of high pressure, a little bit of cumulus, perhaps blue thermals, and we're all racing off around cross country, having a great time.
Yeah, good. Now, going back to the competitions, what's actually involved? What is the objective?
Yeah, so what you can see here is the grid of gliders lined up, ready to launch. At a suitable point when the weather's good, the guys will all be briefed. In this case, the girls will all be briefed. They'll have a task. They all know exactly what they need to do, and they'll stuff that in their moving map on their computers. And at the right time, they'll be launched. And all 42 or 3 gliders are launched in about 45 minutes. It's pretty impressive. With about 6 tow planes, whiz them up to 2,000 foot, where they sort of gaggle around until such time as the start line is opened. When the start line is open, they can then choose whenever they want to cross the start line after that, and then they fly around their task. So a typical task, and I think I provided you with an image of a flight actually that took place during the World Championships, a GPS trace. The whole thing is recorded on internally on a secure logger, and then when they complete the flight, which could be anything between 150 up to 600 kilometers, depending on the weather, then they get scored on the day. So there we go. There's an example. So the squiggly line up at the top right hand corner there is the glider whizzing around a little bit before going through the start line, and then it rushes off towards the southwest past Edge Hill, round the turning points which actually form the task, and then eventually back to the gliding centre via a control point, probably just to stop the flow of traffic going somewhere we don't want it. Obviously the task is set so it avoids controlled airspace, and off they go. So sometimes they go around in a big group, in a gaggle. Other times they're really well spread out, doing their individual thing. And at the end of the week, or the 2 weeks in this case, the person with the most amount of points is the winner.
Yeah. What kind of strategies do you have to implement as a glider pilot to win?
Well, yeah, these days you probably need to be flying as a team, because if you're flying with a mate or a couple of mates, then you're covering a lot more sky, so you can call what's happening with the air mass. So, I mean, for example, with these teams, they've all individually got a frequency assigned to them by the CAA, so they can communicate a little bit. But actually, it's a bit of teamwork, and it's about just using your experience and your knowledge to make the best use of the conditions that are out there. I mean, it really just comes down to that. Reading the sky is super important, as well as actually having a think about how the opposition might play it.
Yeah. And in terms of reading the sky, just from somebody who's not ever flown in a glider, how do you read the sky? What are you looking for? Is it weather? Is it birds?
Yeah, you might have an image of looking forward from a cockpit of some cumulus clouds. I mean, when you're soaring, you get to learn what a what a good cloud looks like. So I mean, obviously cumulus clouds are formed by thermals, and you get to look at cloud shapes, and you kind of understand, and you start drawing in your mind. You draw lines in the sky, joining up lines of energy. I mean, it's difficult to explain if you haven't done it, and you actually are always looking at the route ahead. So if we're coaching people to fly across country at speed, we're encouraging them while they're climbing the thermal to actually have the next 2 or 3 climbs lined up. So you're kind of always looking at the sky. When it's blue, when there's no cumulus, well, that's a bit trickier. Although people tend to fly more in a straight line then, just bump into thermals when they occur.
Yeah. Carol says, do women have an advantage or a disadvantage, which means they need a separate competition?
Not at all. I mean, gliding is one of those activities, like any type of flying, really, where it's completely gender neutral. There's no advantage by being a male or a female. But the big challenge is, of course, and we've spoken about this before on this forum, haven't we? I think women are represented at about 7% in aviation generally, and certainly gliding is no different from British Airways or anybody else in that respect. So in the worldwide gliding community, they've decided that a way of actually promoting women in the sport is to use the sort of excellence at this level to demonstrate, and actually promote women in gliding and try and encourage women to get involved with all levels of gliding. So that's what it's all about. It's promotional rather than a need. I mean, there's plenty of women flying in our national gliding competitions and doing extremely well.
Yeah. Is there much kind of community engagement you do within the UK to promote that?
Well, a great question, Johnny. So I mean, aviation tends to be a bit sort of introspective, doesn't it? And gliding's no different from any other in that way. So what Liz Sparrow, who's the director of this competition, actually a couple of quick words about Liz Sparrow. Liz is a well-renowned international competitor in gliding. And actually, she's given up I think personally, she's given up a medal slot in the British team to actually develop and run this competition. She's absolute inspiration. But she came up with some really good ideas, which we've all flown with, which is to use the competition a bit differently from normal, to actually engage with the communities in the area around Husbands Bosworth Airfield, and perhaps a little bit wider as well. Use it to engage with the media and try and use it to both promote women in aviation and women in gliding, as well as gliding in the round. And it's actually been pretty successful. So much so that the International Gliding Commission of the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, which is the overall air sport body across the world, is looking at it with great interest as a potential model for our competitions. So, we're delighted to be the guinea pigs there. And it's been really exciting to be part of it.
Good. Now, talking about tugging, obviously that must be quite an expense, and with the price of avgas going up, has it impacted the cost of gliding this year?
Oh yeah, massively so. So that's a Robin DR400. So in this particular competition, the tugs were either DR400s or Supermonks, Lycoming powered chipmunks. And being Lycomings, they're quite thirsty. Yeah, there's a typical layabout tug pilot from HUSBOS. So he's there all the time. This guy's our building to go and do something more exciting in the future. But yeah, so the cost of fuel has really impacted the cost of aerotowing for sure. I mean, it's people pay it still because they want to be towed off. But I'm very lucky at the club I fly at. We use a Eurofox, which sips fuel. But the guys that are still using Lycoming powered aircraft are feeling the pinch a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a couple of comments on. Someone's asked, is there a decline in gliding in the UK? We're seeing a dramatic decline in numbers in the east of England. And then someone else followed up with, there we go. Dave White says, B-listers seems to be a really strong young contingent at Bannerdown. What's the general thing all around the country with gliding?
Yeah, so just quickly, the Bannerdown thing. So the other competition that's underway at the moment is the UK Junior National Gliding Competition. So that's why there are hordes of youngsters and gliders at Bannerdown at Keble Airfield this week, flying in competition. I mean, they have their own, like a lot of clubs which have junior gliding centres, they have their junior contingent. I think something like, of the 6,500 glider pilots, about 1,000 of them are under 25. So there's quite a big contingent of young people flying.
Yeah.
You can fly solo at 14. You can get licence equivalent at 16. What's going on in the east of England? Well, probably no different from anywhere else. I think gliding in the east of England is probably pretty much where it was before. It's quite a thin population. There aren't a huge number of clubs there. The sort of centre of gravity is probably in the area I'm living in the area of the Thames Valley. As I said earlier, the overall number of participants of full members of gliding clubs reduced by 4% through COVID. Be interesting to see at the end of this year where we get to with that.
Cool. There was a good comment there. Richard Kennedy said, "Has gliding suffered from the scaling back of air cadet gliding? Do you think?"
Well, I'll be careful what I say here, but air cadet gliding, which was, I mean, I've never really got involved with air cadet gliding, but I talk to them a lot, and I know a lot of people that have been involved over the years working in it, and that it's all been a bit tragic, hasn't it, over the last few years. They're still there doing their thing. I think from a gliding perspective, we haven't really felt anything, because people don't generally go from air cadet gliding to civilian gliding, because as soon as they realise they have to spend money, they rapidly lose interest. But where we have the impact we felt is the background where I came from is there aren't so many people in the military anymore, so we're not seeing the retired engineers, which is technicians as I was, coming through that we used to get, who took up gliding, sport gliding in the Air Force or the Army, and then sort of flowed out into the civilian world. So we're not seeing those anymore. But that's just a fact of life. But the air cadets really hasn't made any difference to us whatsoever. It just makes a big difference.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a whole bunch of questions in the comments that are coming up around weight, and it kind of started off with someone going, "Well, is a slight woman at a disadvantage?" But we've seen a couple of the pictures where the gliders are getting rid of water on final approach, getting rid of ballast, where gliders actually make themselves heavier. What's that all about? Can you sort of talk through the weight versus performance issue?
Yeah, sure. So actually, at the beginning of the competition, we have to weigh all the competition gliders to make sure that the water they're carrying doesn't exceed the max weight allowed by the competition rules. So they could be up to sort of 600 kilograms or something like that. So we kind of do all that. And then most days they put the maximum allowable water into the wings and then take off, and then when they work out what the conditions are like, they might trim it off a little bit to get the wing loading where they think it needs to be. If you've got a high wing loading, a simple way of explaining it is if you've got a higher wing loading, you get the same glide angle but at a higher speed. The polar curve moves across to the right, but you get a slightly higher sink rate. So in weak thermal days, you really want a light wing loading. When it's going great guns like it was last weekend, you want to be stuffed full of water so you can make the most of the strong thermals and increase your average cross-country speed. Then obviously you don't want to be landing with a high wing loading. You'll probably bend the undercarriage, so they stream the water off as they approach the airfield on what's called the final glide. And usually that's it. So those aircraft will have they're using their onboard computers, they will have actually fine-tuned their final glide, 40 kilometers away. And then at the very last bit of the glide, they'll be streaming off the water. And then these guys obviously drop the gear and open the air brakes, ready to cross the line and land straight ahead on the airfield, which is a very normal way of finishing a gliding competition.
Yeah. And without, I know this is a common thing to say, without taking a mick, but if the runway is blocked, what do you do?
I just go around. Well, actually, gliders are designed to land in fields, because sometimes we have to do that. I think I might have shared a picture of you. A bunch of gliders didn't quite make it around one day. CS22, which is the design code, means all the undercarriage everything on gliders is actually designed for operating off-piste. But the way these guys operate at Husbos, just to help understand, they will have been pre-briefed and they're all pretty well disciplined. So they're all, in this particular case, on this run, which is the easterly run at Husbos, when they've come streaming back, probably from the west, they'll all aim to land long down the far end. And they just organise themselves in a pretty self-disciplined way and land down the runway. Bear in mind, if you land on a runway in a glider, it's normal to taxi off to one side to leave it clear for somebody else to land behind you. That's just kind of very normal, good manners, really.
Brilliant. Good. Any questions in the comments, guys?
I have a question. So, Pete, having flown a fair bit in France, I've come across quite a few airfields where gliding and GA operations tend to mix quite happily, it would seem. Although there are some gliding places that you can fly into and out of here, there are also quite a few gliding operations where I think it would be fair to say power is not overly welcome. Is there a reason for that? Is there anything that we can do to grow? We're all part of the same community after all. We all share the same sky, but we don't all share the same runways.
Or indeed the same method of getting airborne. So, I mean, I fly at a GA airfield where there's gliders, there's our gliding club, there's a sport parachuting club, there's a bunch of guys with power parachutes, very entertaining to watch, and also loads of GA aeroplanes, mainly LAA type aeroplanes, including one I've got a share in. So, those airfields do exist, but I know what you mean. Now, there are some airfields out there which quite literally are gliding sites that quite literally aren't really suitable surfaces for powered aeroplanes. I used to have a share in an RV4, and I wouldn't take it into a lot of gliding sites. I might take the Eurofox in, we've got a share now, but I wouldn't take the RV4 in there. Glider undercarriages, as I said before, can cope with most things, but some of these aeroplanes that are designed for tarmac strips simply can't. But then the other issue is most gliding clubs use winch launching, and cables and aeroplanes really don't go together. So actually, the challenge of trying to brief somebody how to fit in with that kind of operation, following a sort of PPR request, actually is often not worth the hassle of trying to deal with it. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against the aeroplane pilot, but it's quite a difficult thing to deal with. I mean, clubs that have aeroplanes on site, tugs and motor gliders, they have very strict protocols to make sure the cables and the aeroplanes don't end up in the same place. And then there are others like Husbos, which we saw. Good contingent of aeroplane pilots based there. Simon Smith, I don't know if he's on tonight. He's the deputy chairman. He's the tug master. Absolutely fantastic, top bloke. And I watched him on being interviewed recently. I think it might have been interviewed by the CAA, because the CAA have been heavily involved in this. Well, I'd say heavily involved. They've been involved in a helpful way in this gliding competition. He was being interviewed by them and pointed out that he's very happy for airplane pilots to come in there, just PPR, and if he's around, which he is a lot of the time, for how he manages it with his job, he'll show people around and perhaps even try and convince them to take a week's launch.
Great.
Excellent. So, look, short question, long answer. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Good stuff. Right. Well, Pete, thank you very much for joining us. It's been really interesting, and I do need to go gliding actually. So yeah, thanks for your time. And unless you guys have
just get in touch sometime.
Yeah, unless you guys have got any other questions, I think it's probably time for Fantasy Hangar.
Time for Fantasy Hangar. Here we go.
Thanks, Pete.
I forgot to say thank you. Thank you, Pete.
Yes. So Jane Gifford said, Fly did a fly into Husbands Bosworth a long time ago, so we could camp overnight and then glide the next day. Ian, do you remember this?
I'm sure it happened, but I'm getting old. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Okay. And there were a couple of Martin Lusby says Lasham really approachable if you're visiting the Vintage Glider Museum. Tibenham are absolutely ace. Darren Lewington says tried it twice, loved it. Bidford and Nymphsfield are welcoming. So there we go. Get to you. if you can.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at going on to tomorrow evening, called Shennington near near Banbury, because they've got a great like outdoor bar / foodie thing.
So actually, you've been attracted by the idea of beer.
I can see that.
And gliding.
I can see that. Right. I'll have to play the trader again if we're not careful.
No, it's fine. This week's Fancy Hanger, then, with the LAA Grassroots fly-in just around the corner and the promise of a presentation on new types that could be joining the LAA fleet, we thought, what home builds would we like to see for our Fancy Hanger that aren't yet approved? Okay, who's first?
I'm sorry to say, Ed, that you are number one on that list.
Oh, that's fine. I'm very happy to go first because I think this is a good choice. And I'd like to think that this aeroplane, I'm pretty sure it might come up in discussion next week. But I picked the very lovely Panther from Sport Performance Aviation. Now, this aeroplane's been around for 8 years now, and this is a photo of Ian flying it back in 2014. And since then, there's a whole squadron of them flying. They've built plenty of in-service experience. It's a really lovely little single-seater. And the neat thing about single-seaters, people go, it's not very useful. And clearly, what you need is a sporty single-seater that you keep alongside your regular aeroplane. But to do that, you need it to be small. And the nice thing about the Panther is it's got this really clever, quick wing fold where you just pull them out, rotate them, and stow them. And it really is a work of minutes. Powered by a Lycoming Jabiru or even a converted Corvair engine, which does sound brilliant, by the way. The Panther delivers around 140 knots cruise and a whole kit you had for under $20,000. So it's a pretty bargainous way to get a sporty little aeroplane. It's just a bit like, if you know the Grippo Trail, that's got a steel tube fuselage cage, monocoque tail, wings. It's very similar to that. So I think I'll be looking to inject that one into the discussion if it's not already there. But I think the Panther would be very deserving of its time in the spotlight with the LAA.
I agree. I'm a big fan of the Panther. I would still dearly love to build a Panther. I have to say my eyes have been a little bit turned towards the RV-15, but you can't get an RV-15 now, can you? But a Panther, I think...
Yeah, RV-15's not ready yet. So.
Yeah. RV-15's not ready yet, no, frankly. And I don't know, that Panther, yes. And the idea that you can just fold the wings back and pop it underneath your other aircraft is a great one. So I think there may there might well be a Panther in my future at some point, although I have about less than zero desire of being the person who takes it through the process of LAA approval.
But on a realistic note, and we know that lots of people like yourself, there's plenty of people who really want to build one. So I think LA is all about adding members and adding people who want to build aeroplanes. So put an aeroplane add a new exciting aeroplane on the fleet that people want to build.
Absolutely. So I'm next. I think that's a good, strong Ed wins contender there, to be perfectly honest with you.
It's a strong start. So
it is a strong start from Ed. I went a little bit left field because the whole thing was like aircraft that we would like to see approved by the LAA, isn't it? So I chose the Stitz DS1. It looks a bit strange. I'll grant you that. It was built as basically an attempt at building the world's smallest aircraft. The wingspan is a mere 1.9 meters and the length's 3.4 meters, which sounds huge, but it's not. I mean, I've stood next to this. That's in the EAA Museum at Oshkosh. I've stood next to this and looked at it, and the first time I saw it, I thought someone's chopped the wings off of that just to get it in here, haven't they? But no, they are the wings. It's a ridiculously looking aircraft, and frankly, although I would like it to be approved by the LAA, there is no way that I would be flying it. I think that particular one and only version flew 34 times and nobody is rushing out to fly it again. Clearly, the store characteristics must be really quite interesting, I'd have thought.
There's obviously a logic to your madness here with this choice.
There is a logic to my madness. Basically, I figure if the LAA can approve the Stitz DS1, then it's going to approve anything, frankly. So it's intended to burst open the floodgates.
Darren. I see his logic. I am inclined to agree with you.
Yeah. I was wondering what kind of fantasy you were having when you chose that.
Yeah. As you said, it's a flat pack, but it's like flat pack, and someone lost the instructions.
Oh, come on, people! Look at it. It's.
Keir Williams says, I like the RV in the background. It is the RV3 prototype sat behind it.
And the RV3 is approved, isn't it, Keir? I mean, look at this. I mean, like I said, I don't actually want to fly it. It'll be a talking piece at the front of my fantasy hangar. But once we get that through, we can get anything through, can't we? We can get, well, you approve that. I mean, that's only got a wing that's 1.9 meters.
Andrew Clemens says, is this the back door to the Starfighter? For a few weeks
it's the gateway drug into the Starfighter, I think.
Yeah.
Although I think I'd be happier flying a Starfighter than a two-seat Starfighter, clearly, than that.
Definitely. So who's choice number 3?
Choice number 3. Let me just flip back. This is Dave.
Right. Well, my choice, when we were wandering around at Oshkosh this year, I mean, I haven't been for a few years, whereas the other Ian and Ed have. So I stumbled across this stunning aircraft, the Timber Tiger. It's a 95% scale replica of a Ryan ST, not the PT-22, which is looks a bit like, but it's not that. It's the ST. It's a 95% scale. It's the dream of a chap called Nick Pfaffenstiel, who started building this project in 2015, and it was apparently completed at last year's Oshkosh, but of course we weren't able to go. So this is the first time we've seen it, and it's just gorgeous. I think it will make a lovely project. I did get a bit of information from them actually, because I vaguely was thinking about it. Because it is available. I thought at first it was going to be a plans built thing, and it's the engine. That's the good thing about it. It may look like a vintage aircraft, but it's got modern systems, including a Rotax 912 engine. So it's a modern replica, if you like. But they say it's available as a quick build, stock built from plans. It should take up to a maximum. It should be about 1,500 hours for construction, and average $75,000 to $90,000 US to complete for a finished aircraft, which is quite reasonable, I think.
I think it's a fabulous aeroplane, and I know Nick is actively interested in the UK market, so I really hope that one could make it.
It is a stunning aircraft, I have to say. You realise it'll take you longer to finish than your house, though, don't you?
No. My house is never going to be finished.
Cool. Okay, Johnny.
What's that say? Dave's winning.
He's winning. I don't think I've said that before.
Right, I've gone for. So I think it's quite a good-looking aeroplane, really, and I can't see a reason why it couldn't be.
It's never
approved over here.
Never a good start, Johnny. You go, I think this is a good-looking aeroplane.
I've gone for the Myers Little Toot.
Yes.
Which is actually a great-looking little machine. It's pretty. It was designed in the 50s by George Mayer. It's plans built. It's designed for aerobatics, and it's stressed to plus and minus 10 G. I personally think it looks probably more livable than a Pitts, as in it doesn't look quite as crazy and as squirrely and as hard to handle as a Pitts. It's got an 03, well, you can put in whatever engine you want, but an 0360. It's got a gross weight of about 600 kilos. Performance, you're looking at 115, 120 knot cruise, but I think it looks great. Looks like a really fun machine to fly. They did actually, many years later, create the Big Toot, which is a two-seater, much bigger engine. I think it had a 6-cylinder 0540, I think it was.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look at that. It just looks fun.
Johnny, I'm sorry to say this, but when you look at it, the front of it with the little cheeks looks really nice. The spats and the undercarriage actually look like they've been really nicely designed too. The wings don't actually look too bad either. And the tail's a little bit ugly, but it's not too bad. And even the way the canopy sits, like Keir said, I think, or someone said, there's a bit RV3 to it. The trouble is, none of those elements work well together. They're all completely out of proportion and mismatched. It looks like it's come from someone's dodgy parts bin.
I think I reckon. Yeah, I think the wing is what does it, because you've got a sweep back on the top wing, you've got dihedral on the bottom wing, which I think just kind of slightly messes with the aesthetic. But
the sum of the parts is less.
Do you know the reasons why you have a swept top wing and a straight bottom wing?
No.
Because if you look at a Pitts, you'll see that Pitts has a swept top wing and a straight bottom wing, and it's all to do with making it flick roll easier.
Ah,
right.
If you look at things like Jungmeisters, they have both swept wings.
How are we doing in the comments?
Sorry, how does the pilot see forward in that, Johnny? If you look at this.
You don't, Dave. You don't.
I think he sees forward relatively well. He's just got a lot of stuff in his way.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Johnny. I think the Little 2 is a fabulous aeroplane. It's just, and I think curiously, it will horrify Dave, but I think some early Little Toots were made from bits of chopped up Luscombe.
I was going to say the undercarriage did look very Luscombe-ish.
Well, there you go. How are we doing in the comments then? Because we're
in the comments tonight. So to be fair, I'm not surprised it's one, but there's a strong feeling that Dave's is a winning choice, and I agree. I think that is a lovely aeroplane. There's no one saying that Ian wins. Richard Kennedy says, surely Ian's choice would fit into SSDR. Well, it would, Richard, if the stall speed of it, the SSDR category was like 100 knots. So,
multiply the stall speed by 10. And it's okay.
Yeah, Dave wins. Winners so far. Paul Wheel says, at least the F104 has an injector seat. Claire B says, Dave's winning. Mark Litherland loves Dave's choice. Dave wins. Dave has it. Dave is back. Dave winning. Dave wins. Johnny Windy. Perhaps that's the unusual way of saying Johnny wins.
Yeah, most days.
There we go. Clarified. Wins. There we go.
It must be an unusual feeling, Dave.
I'm stunned. Feeling a bit uncomfortable.
My favourite comment, ATC, what's your aircraft type, Johnny? It's a Little Toot.
Okay, right. As we are 7 minutes over, let's have a quick run through the events, Dave.
Okay, yep. So the weekend kicks off with the annual RV flying at Glenforsa from Friday right through to Sunday. At Sherburn on Saturday, there's the club's summer event. The Vintage Aircraft Club have a flying at Old Warden on Saturday. At Henstridge on Saturday, there's the usual Wings and Wheels event. It's been getting bigger and bigger each year. And on Sunday, possibly the most sociable event will be the Stoke Golden Flying, which is always a pretty good one. Coming up, just to be aware of, obviously the LAA Grassroots flying the following weekend. But also the following weekend, this is the 2nd to the 4th, are the British National Aerobatic Championships at Peterborough Coningsby. You may not want to fly into that, but you may want to fly around it. Yeah.
Really good. Johnny?
Yep, join the Fly Club, £52 for the year, equivalent of £1 a week, which is not a lot. You can join at fly.co.uk/membership, and we'll be releasing next month's free landing vouchers, obviously on the 1st of September. So that's something new for everybody to go out and visit some other airfields. And yeah, we've got lots of other discounts and member benefits as well. So yeah, head over there to the website and find out more.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, team. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your flying. Fly safe. Seems lots and lots of stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah.
We'll see you next Wednesday in the afternoon if you're a club member and you're around for Livestream Extra. A little half an hour look behind the scenes, and then we'll see you next Thursday, hopefully. And then, actually, next Thursday could be tricky because we might all be, there will be a next Thursday, clearly. And then we'll do something from the LAA, nearly said it, Grassroots fly-in, probably, if we can get the bandwidth.
Friday.
Look forward to seeing you next Thursday either way. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks,
Thanks,
Gene.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.